What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting Art of War live stream. Today is Tier List Tuesday. How you doing, Quinton?
I'm doing awesome. I'm really excited. There's a balance patch coming on Thursday. I can't wait to see what's in there. So today we get to talk about something I really love in 40k, and that's tournaments.
I do love tournaments. We're in a weird spot.
We are.
know there's a balance patch coming Thursday. Games Workshop has announced it. That means they're totally not going to delay it until 4 weeks from now. And
September 31st.
And so we're all waiting a little bit. You know, if you're like top end hyper competitive 40k, between Tuesday and Thursday, you're probably just painting up your stuff that's a little bit unloved. You know, maybe scouring the internet, just kind of waiting, just hoping, praying that Eldar maybe get changed a little bit. So we think that this is actually a very well-timed video. We're going to be talking about 10 things you need to know before going to a tournament.
Yeah, so this is, if you haven't been to a tournament before, there's a ton of you guys with 10th edition who maybe they're returning for, or you haven't been to one in a while. These are things that we, who go to way too many tournaments, find really helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is just kind of like a collection of tips we brainstormed together. You know, these could be for your first tournament, but frankly, even if you've been to tournaments, this is probably still worth reiterating and remembering. A lot of the things we're going to say here have actually nothing to do with how good your army is. None of this advice here is going to be, you fool, sell your carefully named Chaos Space Marine army for Eldar. Don't worry, not on the tip.
Yep.
All right. Well, before we dive into this, let's give people the spiel, which is that on Thursday, there's a balance patch coming, which means you know for an actual factual, we are going to be talking about this on Thursday live here on YouTube. So if you want to catch that content live, you should subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get notified whenever we go live. And trust me, we have tons of content coming up your way on YouTube. So please like this video if you like the video, share with your friends, leave a comment below, and subscribe. No doubt we're going to give 10 good tips here, but there's more than 10 pieces of advice that you should know. If you think there's something we missed, leave it in the comment section. If you watch this video and you think, wow, this was super helpful, check out the comment section, because guaranteed at least one person who watches this is going to drop, you know, just a gem of advice in the comment section. You're going to want to catch that too.
Before we start, though, I have something kind of fun.
Yeah, what's that?
Extra fun fact.
Fun facts.
The first time John and I played in a tournament was April 1st, 2017 at Crucible 6.
Crucible 6.
Crucible 6. It was a tie.
It was, in fact, a tie. Over 6 years ago. It's been a good run. But yeah, that was the first time Quinton and I played a game of Warhammer 40,000.
The first time we played a game in 10th edition was somewhere in Tampa. I don't remember the date, but you beat me very badly.
That was 9th edition. Yeah, that was 9th edition. Yeah, 2017, that was 7th edition, right?
Yeah, 7th edition.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and roll into the top 10 tips, shall we?
All right.
All right, and here we go.
Woo!
Woohoo! So, spoiler alerts, we're showing them all to you at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
But that's all right. Let's go ahead and just start with number 10.
Number 10. This is something that is really important and has gotcha'd me many times, and that's remember to eat.
Yeah.
Like...
It's so easy to be like in a hotel, go downstairs, see the one and only option is a $13 breakfast burrito that looks like it's been sitting under a sun lamp since last year's convention, and decide maybe I'll just eat lunch. Maybe I'll have a big lunch.
And then lunch rolls around.
And your game went long.
And you have 20 minutes to eat, and so you grab a muffin and a pack of, I don't know, goldfish.
And you only eat half the muffin. I have been there, I have done that, and I have regretted it.
I promise you will play worse.
Yeah.
You will just play worse.
A lot of these things are intangibles that you're not going to really realize affect you until you compare and contrast playing with a full stomach and without a full stomach.
And when we say eat, it doesn't have to be like, you know, superfood, like lemons and avocado. But like basically, as long as it is like what I like to call real food.
Yeah.
So like if you have some kind of like protein, if you eat like a pasta dish, probably fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't eat a bag of M&Ms for breakfast and call that good.
But eat something real.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is worth getting that $13 breakfast burrito just to have something.
And a big thing that I think is actually really top tier is that even if you're flying for a tournament, pack a couple things of like dry food.
Yep.
Like something that I'll whenever I remember, what I like to bring to tournaments is like a couple granola bars or Cliff bars, whatever. Breakfast bars are easy for you. You know, this is in a sealed plastic bag. You can just bring that out and play, no problem. And like a thing of like trail mix. Yeah. I find works really well. Trail mix is great because you can snack on as you go. Nothing that's going to be too messy on your hands in case you have to eat it during a game. And I'll then proceed, throughout the weekend. And as soon as I realize, wait, I didn't eat breakfast. Wait, I'm a little hungry. Shoot, I'm at the table. I don't want to leave for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's when you just pull that out of your bag and you say, all right, I've got a breakfast bar. I've got some, some trail mix. I'll go, call that a day. That'll get me through to lunch.
Through lunch. Also, like if you're at a convention, a lot of times there's some kind of like a convenience store, a grocery store, maybe a 5 or 6 minute walk away. Yeah. Morning up before round pairings go up, you can go grab a box, come back or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. There is time for it, and trust me, it makes a difference. If you're plain hungry, and especially if you're nervous, still eat.
Still eat.
Trap I have fallen into day 1 of LVO. I'm just thinking about what the pairings are going to be. Am I going to lose round 1 again? Am I going to go make it to the top 4? I don't know.
I have a policy of I force myself to get a breakfast and eat at least 3 bites.
Yeah. Hopefully you know what works well for you when you're maybe feeling a little, not happy. Like whenever my stomach's not happy, I'm not feeling like a normal breakfast burrito. Like even yogurt works well for me then.
Something small.
Just something.
Or like a banana or like an apple.
Something like that. It'll work. All right.
Okay.
That's number 10.
Number 10. Number 9. This is something that is actually quite important. It's to bring everything. And
feels targeted.
Yeah. So there's the obvious things, right? Bring dice, bring objective markers, bring a tape measure, but also things that you might not think about, like bring
your army.
Your army.
I've seen people forget it, man.
I've done that.
I've seen. Mark Parker, I'm talking about you.
I like to check and make sure I have all of my units before I walk out the door that day. Also things like chest clocks, like wound counters or extra dice. I kind of have a tournament bag that doesn't really change. Everything just stays in that bag, and then I take that with me.
Yep.
It is weirdly disorienting to show up to a tournament and like not have your tape measure or whatever.
Yeah, like your comfort stuff. It throws you off your game.
It really does.
Yeah.
I have one tape measure that's been with me for 3 editions now, and it's like my tournament tape measure, and I feel weird in an event without it.
Yeah. I feel like this is actually better advice for a long-time tournament goer than a newcomer. Because a newcomer is going to bring everything they know to bring. Because when you're going to your first tournament, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, let me make sure I've got everything. Oh, I'm so excited. Let me double check. Man, I'm just so excited. Let me triple check. But then like where I find it hits people is when you've been to like a dozen tournaments, 100 tournaments. Like, honestly, when I'm rolling to, like, a tournament, I'm bad at checking everything. And sometimes I show up at the hotel and I'm like, I don't have my dice bag.
Yeah.
And I just walk to the store, buy a pack of Imperial Fist Horus Heresy dice because they're on sale. Mm-hmm. And I'm just rolling those for the first day. And I'm like, man, these dice suck and I don't like them.
Yep.
And it throws you off your game.
Really, it's a lot of things. I'm really bad about forgetting objective markers.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. Mm-hmm. I keep a pack in my car now.
The amount of times that you and Jack come over and you're like, hey, I don't have objectives. Can I have yours? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of using them.
I didn't have a clock at War Masters. And I had to keep asking. I had to go find a judge or someone for a clock like 3 times. It was like actually really bad.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah, so make a little checklist. Honestly, keep it as like a note on your cell phone.
Yeah.
Or keep everything in the same spot. Like if you keep just a tournament bag, that is a good way to do it.
Yep.
And keep everything in there. But if it's things that you sometimes take out, for example, your dice bag and your tape measure, because you're going to use those when you're playing, at your house or at a local game store, not just at tournaments. Well, make sure those get back in there. Make sure they find their way home.
Yep. This is one that I added on there. Is bring extras.
Yes.
Mark Perry has come up to me at 2 different tournaments and said, my tape measure has broke. Do you have an extra?
Yeah.
And if I had a nickel out of 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
I've seen it happen more than just like people in general. I just see that happen.
Tape measures break more than you think they will.
Yeah.
So bring 2, because being able to have a backup is really nice. Mm-hmm. This is something that I really like to do. Is I pack my army, and I'm like, cool. I'm playing Space Marines. I have 5 squads of guys. I've counted, so I have 25 models. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna add 3 extra Space Marines. Don't really care what they are. They're just dudes. Because sometimes, Intercessor 1 breaks. Right?
Yeah.
So then, like, whatever. So you have an extra guy here, right? And, if it's rounds 4, a lot of times you're like, hey, man, this guy got stepped on. Kind of sucks. I have this extra Hellblaster. Do you mind if I just throw him in as a dude? Or sometimes you need, like, a marker or a thing. Having
extra bases.
Extra bases is really helpful. Yeah. Especially now with the, like, way combat actually is kind of annoying, being able to map everything out. Or if you're playing something like Knights, and you want to see if you can fit around a base, having an extra Knight base that you can measure with is really helpful.
Absolutely is, yeah. Yeah, it's all really, really good advice there.
Yeah.
I think just like having a couple extras of anything that you think you might need, and also just for your opponent.
Yep.
Like I've seen people who bring exactly 20 dice and say, well, my gun is 20 shots, so I'll just do that. And then they lose a dice.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh no!
My dice bag has like 150.
Yeah, bring extra dice and then count 20 out game 1 and
Yes.
keep those separate. And if you accidentally lose one, unfortunate, we all hate losing dice in our shiny click clacks, just grab another one out of the bag.
Yeah, just it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Super glue should be on here. Yes, you should bring super glue.
Oh, yeah.
Or just, if you're traveling with a group, have a designated super glue guy.
That's a good one.
Like Art of War, someone on Art of War should have
Super
super
glue
glue every
time.
time we go to an event. We don't need 5 things of super glue.
No, but
we need one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Friendly to you because you're responsible.
Ooh, yeah. Should be Nick. He breaks the models.
Oh boy.
Got him. Yeah. Next up.
Yeah. Call for a judge.
Yeah.
This is not to say that you should call for a judge every single time your opponent does something.
Mm-hmm.
But it is to say that, like, the judges are there for a reason. The world will not end if you call for a judge. Hopefully your opponent will not get mad if you call for a judge. If you have a question with your opponent, I find top tables especially, it's starting to become really common, where if there's some kind of like a contention, even if it's not being contentious, we're like, hey, how does this rules interaction work? We'll just go get a judge before anything really happens.
Yeah, and I think that's a good policy. So there's a lot of kind of like, assumptions about what calling a judge means or what calling a judge is. Let's put a couple, things on here. So first up, calling a judge is not an implication that your opponent is cheating.
No.
You're not calling a judge always because you think your opponent's a bad person, because you think they're stupid, because you think they're cheating. I call judges all the time for little stuff. I've had judges complain to me like, John, you could just, like, why don't you just look this up? I'm like, you were right there. Like, I just figured I'd see if you know. Like, right? Because especially if you're getting near a top table, there's usually a judge hanging around.
Yeah.
And even if you're not, even if you're at a bottom table, a mid table, whatever, if you have a question, don't be afraid to call a judge. Judges don't mind being asked questions. They would much rather that a judge would much rather that you call them rather than hear about it on Reddit on Monday.
Yep.
Every single judge I've known, every single one would much prefer that you talk to them in the event rather than
generally speaking, the sooner you can call a judge about an incident, the better.
Yeah. The
best time is when it's happening.
Yeah, and an incident doesn't have to be negative. I have called judges over to check line of sight.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Especially like if it's like if you're like, well, if I'm here, can I see from the top of my banner to the edge of your sword? Like those kind of things. And it's like a millimeter. It gets really finicky.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just do it.
My personal rule of thumb is that if my opponent and I have a conversation that lasts more than 10 seconds, I just call a judge.
Yeah.
Because if I can't solve it in 10 seconds of bending over and looking at the table and measuring, I'm just going to be like, honestly, man, if it's this close, let's just get a third party.
Yep.
And it's come up. At WTC, I spent 15 seconds looking at the barrel of a Wraith Knight trying to find the Spear of a Custodian Guard, and if in 15 seconds I can't cleanly determine whether or not there's line of sight, where it's not obviously yes or obviously no, I just call someone.
Yeah.
They come over, they tell us, nope, you can't see, move on with your life.
Yeah,
or yes, you can see.
We had, I think Lim checked for semifinals like 3 or 4 times for line of sight, just because it was like stuff that was like, can the Wraith Knight see the very edge of that fire prism? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, if it's close, it's close,
Yeah.
right? So just call the judge.
Call a judge.
Call the judge. And just tell your opponent like, hey, let's just have some double check.
Yep.
Another way to like just bring up kind of the idea of conflict is because there is an inherent stigma. Oh, you're calling the judge because you disagree with me. Just be polite about it is the biggest thing you can do. So just tell opponent like, hey, I'm just gonna ask a judge to double check. It's kind of close. I'm not really sure which way it's gonna be. Don't say, oh, I'm calling a judge because I know I'm right and you're wrong. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. The judge might come over and tell you you're wrong. It happens to me about 50% of the time with line of sight and inch measurements. It's about half the time you just
kind of go with it.
You can just kind of roll with it.
Yep.
But just keep it cool, keep it calm, and just say, hey, I'm just gonna ask a judge to double check this real quick.
Yeah.
And they'll usually come over and they'll give you an answer, and then you and your opponent can just kind of keep going or keep laughing about it. And it will be okay, and your opponent will not be mad at you. So never be afraid to call a judge, because there's nothing worse than calling a judge or talking to a judge after the game being like, yeah, I thought he couldn't do this, but well, he said he was pretty sure he could. And the judge's like, yeah, sorry, he can't do that. And you're like, oh, can we change the score? And the judge's like, no, that was turn 2 of a 5-turn game that you've submitted a score on. It's too late.
Very broadly, when the score is in, unless there's something like very wrong, the score is not really going to get.
Unless your opponent volunteers to change it, once it's in.
Yeah.
All right. I'll save the rest of it for number 3.
Yes.
There's always more to this subject, but kind of goes over there. Number 6.
Drink. Ideally water.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. Especially if you are imbibing other sorts of drinks in tournaments. If you're going to have a good time. There's a lot of tournaments that sell alcohol. Make sure you're staying hydrated. I like to bring a water bottle with me.
Yeah, something I can refill.
And here's the big thing. That a lot of tournaments are in convention halls that have recycled air and are very dry. And you don't notice it until it's day 2 and your mouth is on fire and your lips are very chapped.
Yeah. The first time I went to LVO, I didn't bring lip balm.
Yeah.
And
my lips were bleeding.
I was bleeding. I bled on a fat mat. Fun fact, you can wipe blood off a fat mat if you're fast.
Do you remember what I do now at LVOs?
You go buy lip balm day 1 every single time.
Yeah. I go buy 6 packs of lip balm. And I just give it out to everyone.
Hand them out,
I literally do. Because it's the best money I spend at that tournament.
Yeah, I have lip balm in my travel bag everywhere I go now, just to make sure it's there at LVO.
Yeah.
But stay hydrated because you're going to be, especially if you're new to a tournament. What a tournament is practically is up to maybe over 9 hours of you standing in a room with an indeterminate number of other people who are all walking constantly around the table on their feet and talking the whole time. And talking doesn't sound hard, but everyone else is talking. And now you're talking a little bit louder. And now you're talking a little bit louder than you're used to for about 4 times as much as you would in a normal day. I think I say maybe 10 times as many words in a tournament Saturday as I do in a home Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. Easily 10 times. So, just make sure that you're drinking water. And you know what? Tournaments are fun. It's a weekend away from work sometimes. It's a weekend out of state. It's a weekend with friends. By all means, drink whatever makes you happy responsibly. But
also drink water.
Mix water in with it.
Yes.
If you grab a soda, grab a water. What I normally do every time my opponent's like, hey, I'm going to start the movement phase, I look down and say, I'm not going to overwatch. I'm going to go get a drink. Do you want one? Offer your opponent. It's a great way to just be friendly to your opponent. Spend an extra 75 cents on a water bottle.
Okay.
I buy a Coke and a water.
Yep.
Drink the Coke, get a little bit of sugar, get the liquids going, and then nurse the water bottle, finish it up by the time they're done with their next turn. Halfway through the game, go do it again.
Yep. Oh, this is something that Chad has pointed out that I forgot to, is remember to sit down as well.
That's a great point for the chat.
Yes. Sometimes my legs have never hurt so bad as they have at WTC.
Yeah, day 4 of a tournament, you're just wow, I am not used to doing this. It's not like it's hard, but just day 4 of, I've only been standing and walking around and then walking to the hotel.
Yep.
And then walking everywhere to a new restaurant because I don't want to call 7 Ubers a day.
Yep. And we gotta bend over the table and measure things.
It actually adds up.
Just sitting down for 30 minutes to an hour, at a time or between rounds or whatever, really helps.
Yeah. So let's finish up water and then we're gonna put 5.5 in there, which is sitting down.
Yes.
So it's just one of those things that sneaks up on you. It's very easy to be dehydrated and it's very easy for that to impact your comfort and then your ability to play the game. As soon as you're uncomfortable, you're going to be thinking about things besides screening and scoring and CP management, right? As soon as you're thinking, God, I'm thirsty. Man, I need to get some water. I am dying right now. Once that thought enters your head, you're not going to ask your opponent about rapid ingress until the next time you've had water.
Yes.
And it's just going to burn you.
There's a reason we had support staff. WC.
Yeah,
we had people there whose entire job was to get us everyone water.
Yep. It's very, very important. And it also just helps with the fact that, some people may be enjoying a late night because they're in a new city and they're with their friends, right? Go out, have fun Friday night, no problem. By Saturday morning, you're probably going to want water. So just it's a lot of these simple things that just add up if you're not expecting it to.
Yep.
All right. 5.5?
Which is
the one that we didn't type?
Sit down.
Sit down when you can.
Yep. Literally whenever you can, sit down. Yep. If there's a chair at your table, use it.
No, claim a chair before the game. Look around. and just look, because there is about 2 chairs for every table.
Yep.
And what always happens is someone sits in a chair, wants to put their backpack in a chair, looks around, finds a table with no players, grabs a chair, tucks it up to there. So there's very often 3 chairs at one table, 1 at another. And then there's usually a stack of chairs in the back. So before the game, grab a chair, especially games 2 and 3. Game 1, I don't sit as often as I should. I'm usually just like, whatever, I'm feeling good right now. This isn't a problem.
Yeah.
By game 2 and 3, just had a good lunch. Game 3, I've been on my feet. Game 3, day 2, just grab a chair. Be willing to sit and watch the game, especially in your opponent's turn. Trust me, when you need to see something in the table, you'll be able to stand up and take a look. But just taking 10 minutes off here, 10 minutes off there, and especially between rounds. Between rounds, especially if I have a game finished early, you saw that last time I was at a singles tournament at Cherokee. Oh, no, you weren't there. Dang it. Between rounds, I pulled up a chair and read a book, for an hour.
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, no problem. I'm just going to rest my legs, put in my headphones, deconnect a little bit, de-stress, just read a book, and then we're good.
I honestly, this was another 5.5. Sometimes during between rounds, I'll like to go find a corner and be myself for 15, 20 minutes.
Sometimes that's important, especially if any introverts out there play Warhammer.
Yes.
Any at all, including me.
Yes.
Sometimes just taking 15 to 20 minutes of peace and quiet in the middle of a long day.
Especially if you're rooming with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. As much as I love the people I usually end up rooming with, I do just want to take 10 to 15 minutes sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
All good advice.
Number 5. Read the player packet.
Yeah, this is the one I think I'm the worst at.
Okay. There's a local TO. His name is Lewis. He's like one of the best TOs.
He's the best. Yeah.
He's like the best. I go to his events quite a bit, and before every single event, will message him a question. And they're always different, and they're always innocuous. And every single time, he will just respond with a link to the player packet. And lo and behold, every single time, the answer to my question is in the player packet.
Yeah. TOs love when you ask them questions before the event.
Yes.
They hate it when the answer's in the player packet.
Yeah.
So just read it. It's a very easy thing. You probably should anyways. Most events aren't doing anything crazy.
No.
But if an event is doing something crazy, good golly, do you want to know before you submit your list?
If I read 100 player packets, 90 of them are going to be like, okay, cool, it's GW terrain and standard scoring and everything's the same.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll read it and it'll be like, also, at this event, X army gets this weird buff.
Yeah, towering is actually nerfed in this format
Yeah.
because I hate knights. That just happens. Could happen at a local event, could happen at a big event.
Yeah.
It is totally just, a choice that the TO organizer is going to make. That's fine. But you should be aware of it.
Yep.
Yeah. That, and then just know how they're ruling anything specific to them.
Yes.
So if they're not doing GW terrain, well, maybe they're doing WTC terrain. Are they doing the WTC FAQ? Suddenly, this is a bit of a different game.
Yep.
It's still 40k, but now you can kind of charge through walls. And now you can't charge block people. And all of a sudden, this is a little bit different than what I'm used to.
Another thing that I think is helpful is if there's a rules question you have, maybe it's something that's not been FAQ'd or the FAQ is very ambiguous, because we have a couple of those nowadays. Ask the TO before the event starts how they're ruling something.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
if there's anything unclear,
Just
maybe before you submit your list, if that's important to you. Some questions are like, wow, this will change my list. Some are just like, hey, I'm curious, how are you doing charging through walls?
Yep.
Because even if they're playing GW terrain, they might be doing it a different way.
Yep.
So just, reading the player packet will probably get you 95% of the way there. Almost every question is usually answered in that. So just take a look. Sometimes it'll be linked on BCP. Sometimes it'll be on the Facebook event. Sometimes it'll be the website, depending on what kind of event it is. And worst case scenario, if you ask the TO for the player pack, they will probably be happier than if you ask them a question that's in the player pack.
Yeah, so ask the TO for the player pack, read it, and then if you still have questions, then ask your TO.
There you go.
Yep. Okay.
All right. On to the top 4.
Top 4.
We're getting to the good stuff here.
I know, right?
Know your rules.
Please.
Please.
You
don't have to know every minuscule detail of something that maybe not be unimportant.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you don't know the attacks characteristic of the armored tracks on a rhino,
who cares?
I don't mind if you
Look
take
that
a second to look that up. That's no big deal.
But if you have to look up, like, the stats of your basic weapons on your most common units every time.
If your list is 20 Lich Guard and you don't know how far a Lich Guard moves, that's something you should know in advance.
Yep.
That's something you should be able to put in front of you very easily. So if you're maybe playing an army for the first time.
Or you're new to the game.
Or you're new to the game and you're just like, I'm just not comfortable with everything yet. Maybe with all these index cards that, GW recently printed, let's say you're playing Necrons, right? Maybe go ahead and just grab the index cards for the units you're playing and set them apart separately. Take a little bit before. Maybe on your flight, just kind of shuffle through the 8 data sheets that you're actually taking and just read over them real quick, try to get it in your head. And you may not know, but be willing to look it up. And most importantly, make it easy on yourself to do so, because it's really awkward when your opponent starts to move something. You say, I thought that moved 10, not 12. And they're like, I don't know. 5 minutes later, it moves 10.
Yeah, the worst is when you have to look through something and it takes a while. It really just slows down the pace of the game. And this is not know every single rule in your faction by heart, because there's a lot of rules in this game.
A lot of rules
can be hard. Mm-hmm. But have the basically the breadth. If it is a rule or a stat that you can reasonably expect to be using every turn, or at least every other turn, you should know that.
Yeah, I don't know the exact melee profile of the Tyrant effects. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Who cares?
Whenever that comes up, I'm just like, I'm pretty sure I'm AP dash damage 2. You probably wound on 3s, and then the second they're like, well, I'm toughness 5. I'm like, all right, now I need to look.
Yeah, but if you're running 12 crisis suits, you should know what the toughness, the save, the wounds, and the offense of a crisis suit is.
Yeah, and ideally how far they move.
Yeah, really that. Yeah.
So knowing your rules, obvious, very helpful. Just take a little bit of extra time to kind of look over them, and it's very easy to be playing a new army. It's very easy to be playing for the first time.
Yeah.
And to mess that up, and especially if you're at a smaller tournament, if you go to an RTT and you decide, I'm just gonna borrow my buddy's Death Guard army because I think they're kind of stinky and cool.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Take a little bit of extra time to know the rules. This is mostly not only to make sure you're not accidentally cheating yourself, your opponent. It also really helps the experience that your opponent has, because it's very frustrating when you feel like you're playing against someone who doesn't know the rules. And if you're a new player, go ahead and say that, hey, I'm new to the game. I've been doing my homework. I think I've got it all down. But if you think I'm making a mistake, no problem. Just let me know. We'll look it up real fast.
I find
if
you tell people you're a new player, they'll be very friendly to you.
Absolutely.
And will bend over backwards to make sure you have a good time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's a good thing, right? It's one of the things I love about the community is that we do try to help new players as much as we can. But it's just do that little extra bit, especially before tournament.
For veteran players, one thing I want to add is if a codex changes or an edition changes, read your stats again.
Yeah.
Even if you think you know them, because sometimes they changed. Last edition, I played Hammerheads with 2 fewer wounds for a year and a half. They had 14, I played them as 12 for the whole time.
Yeah. I thought the Parasite of Mortrix was Synapse for all of 10th edition so far. It lost it in the indexes.
Yep.
It was Synapse when it came out, and I'm like, surely the Parasite of Mortrix, who had an entire Synaptic imperative, still has Synapse. Doesn't.
Yeah.
Doesn't. Oh, I played Biovores as the wrong ballistic skill for 6 months once, because they just changed in between editions, and I didn't really notice. It happens. Yeah. So, yeah, always check that out. And one other thing I'll add on to knowing your rules is that it's a little bit different, but I think it's actually very helpful, is have little guides or helpers if it's complicated.
Yes.
So an example for that would be if I'm playing Tau, I would probably get some coins that say guiding and guided.
Yep, that's a great one.
Just get 20 of them and just put them down on the unit.
When I was playing Eldar or Admech, and I have 7 Psychers and each Psyker casts 2 spells. I would get a deck of cards with the spell names printed on it, so I could be this unit is guided and protected, and you're jinxed and doomed and restrained, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super easy to do, but super important to do.
Another minor one is if you're one of those armies that has 12,000 activations, if you're running I don't know, Eldar Lance Spam right now, and you have 3 Hornets and 3 Warwalkers and 3 Ravagers and 3 Void Weavers. Getting tokens that you can be like, these 3 have shot, so it's very easy for your opponent to see what has left to shoot.
Yeah, I actually find that something that's really easy if you're one of those kinds of armies is having those little like cheap board game gems.
Yep, those are perfect.
Like those like little Mancala beads and stuff. Yeah, just have like a bag of 20 of those and just like put them out as you go.
Yep,
works pretty well. So on to the top 3, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, this is my favorite one.
Yes.
Other than, obviously, the next 2 are very important as well. This is one that I find the need to tell people
Yes.
about. And this is ask questions.
Yep.
Let me tell you a secret about your opponent. I don't care who you're playing against. This is going to be true no matter what. If you are playing a game of Warhammer against someone new, they probably like talking about their army. Everyone who is invested enough in this game to go to a tournament, pay an admission fee, get a hotel, get in the car, get on a plane, whatever they had to do to get there. Anyone who is willing to do that to go to a Warhammer tournament likes the game enough to answer questions about the models that they brought and painted.
Yep.
If they were willing to bring Tau to a tournament, they are willing to talk about Tau.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. They will. So, like, don't be afraid to be like, hey, what is this, like, what's the strength on your gun? What's the toughness of your thing as you're deploying?
Yeah.
Also, like, I kind of have, like, a list of, like, very general questions. Like, 40K is an open information game. So, like, if you ask your opponent, like, hey, are there any, like, crazy weird combos or things like that in your list that I might not be aware of, generally they're going to answer you, right?
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, yeah, like, I have Bolter Discipline, which gives me lethal critical 5s, and then I can stack Norse cover. So these guys, they don't look that strong, but really it's going to be a bunch of shots that are sustained and lethal 5s, and I'll have flurries to hit and wound, and I'm going to go to AP2 ignores cover. There's a lot of moving parts in that, but generally your opponent will explain the outcome rather than like forcing you to figure it out.
Yeah, and the other side of it is, I have like these, I think a lot of tournament players, experienced ones, have like a list of questions they ask. They're like, hey, can you teleport? What's in reserves? Can you go back in reserves? Who can advance and charge? Who can advance and shoot? Who can fall back and do stuff? They ask that.
Do you have evac? That kind of stuff.
All that kind of stuff. At the end of it, what I always love to tack on, I love to tell people to do this, is, hey, what else does your army do that's cool?
Yeah.
And if it's cool, your opponent's going to want to talk about it. If you ask me, the tournament player, like, hey, what else do you do that's cool? I'm going to be like, oh, buckle up for this. My army is going to cause 7 battle shock tests. No damage will happen, but you will not be using stratagems, even though you'll still score primary because of timing.
Yep.
I will tell you all the cool tricks that are not going to get caught by normal questions. Yeah. Like, if you ask me all these normal things, you're not going to figure out that a Neurolictor is an aura of +1 to wound against battle-shocked enemies. That's not a question you're going to ask. But just ask, hey, what else do you do that's cool? And, like, when I'm going through my opponent's lists, that's when I'll do it. I'll be like, hey, all right, intercessors, like, what's their rule? All right, it's an intercessor, whatever. Vanguard veterans on foot. What do they do that's cool? And they're going to be like, actually, on the charge, they do mortal wounds. I actually have no idea what they do.
I have
no idea. But I'll ask if I play against them. And they will tell me the cool thing that they're there for.
Like, for example, that French Black Templar list, I would never figure it out, but it does, like, 15 mortal wounds when it charges you.
Yeah,
like,
surprise, bink.
Yep. Another really big one I love to ask is, what kind of game do you want to play? And what I mean by this is, do you want to play by intense, or do you want to play serious?
Yeah.
And I find starting the game with that really gets me a good temperature on what the game is going to be like, and I can modulate from there.
Yeah. In general, though, a game is going to be much more enjoyable if you and your opponent both have information.
Yes.
There's a very different thing between you telling an opponent a rule, it coming up in game, and then being like, oh, wow, that stratagem was better than what I thought it was. That's kind of cool. And I had no idea you could do that.
Yeah.
Those are very different reactions from the opponent.
I think another big thing, the flip side of this is when your opponent asks you a question, don't give them the technical answer. Give them, like, the real answer. Like, if someone's like, how far does that tank move? And they moves 10. The correct answer is it moves 10, but what they're really looking for is if, like, what is its threat range? If you're like, yeah, well, it moves 10, but if I use the stratagem, it can go 18 and still shoot you. Yeah. Right? Or
like a guard order makes it +3 movement. Yeah. That's the answer that they want, even if they don't know they're asking for it.
Give everything relevant. Or if your opponent, if you see, I like to do this. If you see your opponent doing something very obviously dumb because you have a rule, tell them the rule, like, immediately.
Yeah.
Like, if they're like, oh, I'm going to charge you, be like, hey, just so you know, this unit fights first. Or, I have a stratagem that I can fight first. In the movement phase, where it's still very easy for them to move the unit around.
Yeah, that's a good policy.
There's nothing worse than, like, charging a unit, finding out they have, like, a back pocket fight first you didn't know about, but it's already your charge phase and it's too late to figure that out.
Yeah, that is not the right time to be doing that. Yep. So, all very good questions.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the next one. This one's important, and this is going to tie into a little bit. Don't be a jerk. Please.
Just don't, please.
Everyone is there, and this will tie into number one. Everyone who is at the tournament is optimistic about enjoying their weekend.
Yes.
Everyone starts off round one of the tournament thinking, I am here because I generally like Warhammer, or I generally like the people I'm here with.
Usually both.
And everyone goes into a tournament thinking that they're going to enjoy it.
Yep.
Don't be the reason that they don't enjoy it.
Please.
Please.
Pretty please, from the bottom of my heart.
You will get much further by being nice.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even if you're thinking like, oh man, I really want to win this game, I don't really want to help my opponent because I want to win, even if that's the thought process, be nice. Because you will genuinely become a better player by being nice and talking to people. Because the best way to get good at 40k is to talk to 40k players a lot. Mm-hmm. Genuinely, I think that's like the most important thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just never going to find out what an orc does until it gets to hit you.
Yes.
If your opponents don't want to talk to and you don't have people to talk to about the game, you're never going to catch everything in time to actually play the game.
I think also, like, it's a social experience. And, like, if you're a jerk, people are going to be jerks back to you.
Yeah, then you're not going to enjoy 40k. Then you're going to go be a jerk who plays War Machine, and that's just sad.
There's not many of those left.
There's not.
There's really not.
Yeah, they all play 40k now.
I play Signar.
Yeah, there you go.
I have a War Machine army.
Yeah. Yeah, so put an emphasis on the social aspect. It's very easy if you've never been to a tournament to just say, oh, I just see tournament results that are about winning. Because frankly, unfortunately, the Warhammer meta report doesn't tell you which armies have the best sportsmanship, because that's not a thing.
No.
But just try to be nice. Try to tell your opponent things. Try to tell them what you would want to know. Try to talk to them how you would want to be talked to. Mm-hmm. Being polite to people literally never goes out of style. It has never been nerfed in a balance patch, and it will be meta in 11th edition as well.
Sure will be.
I promise.
I guarantee you. We have a super chat from TNT TV with a 5-year super chat. Quinton is really into making content, Do you feed and treat him well?
Only if he makes the next content piece. He's actually 2 YouTube videos away from earning a $10 gift card to Publix.
That's great.
Yeah.
Rice and beans, here we go.
Rice and beans, let's go. Thank you so much for the super chat, TNT TV.
I want to tack on 2 things to this thing. The first is that don't be a jerk. Please be hygienic.
Yeah, that is part of it.
Don't be a jerk. Please wear deodorant. Please take a shower. Please brush your teeth. You're going to be in a room with a lot of people. You're probably going to be hot and sweaty. Just, like, generally take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't have to dress like a prince.
No, I certainly don't.
No, nor I. But, like, don't be ridiculous. Please just, like, get along with it.
Yeah. If you work from home in a moderate climate, you might shower every other day. Yeah. And that might be fine. Just whatever your norm is at home, at a tournament, it might be different.
Yep.
If you're in a well air-conditioned GT in a local store in winter in, like, the Northeast United States,
yeah, probably fine.
Maybe you're fine with a jacket and some deodorant for the morning. That could be totally fine. Just a little self-awareness, a little respect for the person you're about to spend 3 hours within 6 feet of. Just keep that in mind. And then another part of don't be a jerk is actually just kind of being not just in how you play the game, try to be respectful of your opponent in all of the out of the game stuff. So a good example of this is if your opponent has cool models, ask them before you pick them up.
Yep, a great one.
If your opponent is rolling 100 dice, offer to help them sort the dice, but don't touch the dice without asking.
Yes.
Whenever I play against orcs and they're rolling 1,007 choppa attacks, I'll always ask, hey, do you want any help with the dice?
Yep.
And then I let them tell me. Maybe they'll say, yeah, put successes over here. Because then I'm cool. I'll move the successes over. I'm only moving successes, so I'm clearly not flipping them to failures because I'm putting them in the success pile, so it doesn't matter what I put them as.
Yeah.
Just talk to your opponent. Be respectful of them both in the kind of nebulous outside of the game parts of the game.
Yeah. And then another one that's kind of minor is if your opponent's maybe different than you, try and keep the game about 40k. We're here for Warhammer.
Yep.
So like politics and stuff, you can probably just leave that at the door.
Yeah, there's a very diverse group of people that play Warhammer. If there's 100 people at a tournament, there are 100 different, people.
Yeah, some people have pink
some
hair.
of them will, some of them will be different. Some of them will have pink hair. Some of them will wear a t-shirt that has someone's face on it that you may not like. And that's fine, because you both hate Magnus the Red.
Yep.
And that's what's more important than who you voted for 4 years ago.
Exactly.
Just for that day.
For that day.
Remember how much you hate Magnus the Red. It's not as much as me. I hate him the most.
Sure.
All right. I think we're on to number 1.
Most importantly...
The single most important part
really
of
the
going
most
to a
important
tournament.
thing is to have fun.
Yes.
Encapsulates everything.
And there's so much depth to actually having fun in Warhammer.
Yeah.
A shocking amount of depth. Truly. You can reread it 5 times and you'll still be surprised by the rules of having fun.
Oh, yeah.
The 6th time you read it. Not only should you be going and trying to have a good time, you should make that Magnus the Blue, you're my favorite. Yeah. It's only the red one that I don't
only
like.
Red one.
But this should be your priority.
It really should be. Yeah.
Think about what you enjoy before going to a tournament. And honestly, set your goals accordingly. Because my first goal at an event is to make sure I have a good time. If me pushing to try to win is actively not fun, I will stop doing it.
Yeah.
Quinton has seen me rocking up to tournaments with triple knights painted as well as I can and YOLOing them into people when I shouldn't. You have seen me do that at a major.
Yeah, I've beaten you at a major when you did that.
Absolutely.
Did you have a good time, though?
I had a great time.
Yeah.
That was a really fun game of Warhammer.
Sometimes it's okay if you just, bring something weird that you just want to try. Or, sometimes, once in a while, I'll, bust out the Drakari again and be like, I really miss Incubi.
Yeah.
Go, my prettiest fly.
Yeah, take things that you're going to enjoy. If, for example, you are, and this is good advice for competitive players as well, this is something that you should always be revisiting, is how do I have fun while pursuing my hobby?
Yes.
Because let's say, for example, you consider yourself a relatively competitive player, and you enjoy trying to win tournaments. And let's say that, last weekend you were going to a tournament and you own an Eldar army, but you've maybe played it a lot and you're starting to get a little tired of playing Eldar. This is a situation that came up with a client of mine. We wrote an Eldar list for him to take to Nova. He was taking it to events. He won a major earlier this year with 10th edition Eldar, and he loves Eldar, as a person. He loves Eldar. He's been playing Eldar for about as long as I've known him, which is now this is the 4th different edition that I've seen him play Eldar, and he didn't just buy the army. But he kind of realized going into Nova, I'm just not really enjoying Eldar anymore. And again, this guy's won a major earlier this edition. He is competing. But we were talking and he's like, yeah, I can try to win Nova with Eldar, but I'm just not having as much fun. I'm like, hey, just look at what you think you're going to enjoy most. Because if you're going to Nova to try to win it, you should take Eldar. If you are more worried about how much fun you have in each individual game of Warhammer, take your Orcs. He took Orcs. He went 5-3, did relatively well, didn't blow anyone's socks off, set any records, win the event, get 1,000 ITC points, but he had a really good time playing Orcs, and I'm willing to bet a lot of his opponents had more fun this way. So focus on what you're actually going to enjoy. Don't just chase a goal.
Yep.
And make sure that your goals are things you're going to enjoy. Don't make your goal about a number or about a score. Don't make your goal, if I go 4-1, I had fun. If I go 3-2, I did not have fun.
Exactly. Don't
make that what affects your enjoyment of a tournament. Go in with some goals, and then with the most important goal in mind.
Yeah, have fun.
Which is that even if you lose round 1, still enjoy yourself. Look, I went to an LVO where I was number 2 in the ITC going into it. I lost round 1. And that's a very good lesson in don't make your entire several $1,000 trip to Las Vegas solely about your final number at the end. Enjoy everything else.
Also, while you're here, another good goal I have is making friends. Right? I spend all day thinking and talking about Warhammer and making videos about Warhammer. And sometimes when I get home, I'll get on Discord and I'll talk to people about Warhammer. They're not paying me or anything. I just really like them as people. So I want to talk to them about this thing that I kind of like, that I really like. And we met all at tournaments and stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's like the glue that holds us together. So like, I promise you, if you're nice to people, if you put on a positive attitude and you have fun, if you're shooting your crisis suits and you roll 12 ones with your hazardous and your whole unit dies, and you think it's the funniest thing ever and you laugh really hard, well, your opponent's going to like you a lot.
Yeah, laugh at your own bad dice.
I promise you, it is much more fun.
It is.
Like,
it absolutely
if you look at your own dice and be like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, at WTC, I had 10 orc boys charging into Custodes Wardens. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, I'll shoot the pistols. I'm right here. Yeah. Kills an entire warden from 3 wounds to 0 with the pistols. So puts 3 saves on me. I triple 1. I'm just staring at it. And he's like looking at me. And I just bust out laughing. I'm like, dude, like, whatever, man. Yeah. Like, I'm like, curse those stubbers and just move on. Have a good time. Mm-hmm. Every single member of Art of War I met at a tournament. Yeah. Every person in this house, I didn't meet them outside of a tournament. I met them at a tournament.
Usually
most of them I met over a table. I think I met you for the first time
at Crucible 6.
Yeah, at Crucible over a table. I met Jack over a table. Nick and Richard, I think I met just at events, at events where I just talk to them. And it's important. But focus on enjoying the game. Focus on enjoying it. Learn how to lose.
Yes.
Warhammer there's a great metaphor for life in here, which is that learning how to win is not actually as important as learning how to lose. And acknowledge that no person, even Richard Siegler, although he won't admit it, wins every game of 40k.
I lose a lot.
Yeah, I lose plenty of games of 40k, especially in the house. I take some L's. Yeah, right. I take some hard L's in front of a camera sometimes.
Yes.
It just happens.
Sometimes it really does.
Yeah, so focus on that, honestly. Focus on that. And yes, cheers to the orc player. Always, because the orc players always have the most fun. Yeah, they definitely embody number 1 here. Yeah. That's it. Mm-hmm. I think we covered everything.
I think we did.
There were some very good comments in the chat. Mm-hmm. If you're watching this, make sure you comment what you think we forgot.
Yes.
Because, we probably did forget at least one thing. Very likely more than one thing.
Oh, yeah.
So let us know what we forgot. Let us know what you think is important to know before you go to a tournament. And if you're watching this, maybe thinking about a tournament, maybe you've been going for a while, but this is still kind of helpful, read the comments as well. See what other people had to say. Make friends in the comment section. Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff. Like, I've been seeing a lot of, yoga mats recently.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like,
wearing good shoes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did we put wearing good shoes in here?
We didn't put wearing good shoes.
Dang it. That's...
Wear good shoes.
I'm, the number 1 advocate of that. I exclusively wear long-distance running shoes at tournaments. Because they just have a lot of cushion. Mm-hmm. And also, you can get them in, bright blue colors that match the jersey. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
Wear good shoes. Dang it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed us taking, a little bit different approach to competitive 40k today. Mm-hmm. But we think that it is just as important. So if you like the video, please like the video. Share with your friends, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below. And of course, if you subscribe to the channel, you will get notified the next time we go live with YouTube comment. And spoiler alert, GW has already confirmed there's a balance patch coming on Thursday. If GW delivers their end, I guarantee we'll deliver ours, which is to post content on Thursday talking about that balance patch live.
Yep.
So, subscribe to the channel. You get notified as soon as we're live. That's how you'll know the balance patch is up, because we'll be right on there as soon as it is up there. And then you can read it.
Yep.
So, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out The War Room as well. We've got a free trial in the description below. Click on that link to thewarroom.vhx.tv, and you'll get a free 3-day trial to try out The War Room.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.